Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name's Deborah Garlick from Henpicked Menopause in the Workplace and author of the book Menopause, The Change for the Better. And today's session, finding your hair-friendly diet during the menopause. Now, for some of us, we might think, well, that's not one of the biggest symptoms that we may experience during menopause or post-menopause. But actually, when you take a moment to think about it, how we look and feel really do affect us. And for so many people, they do experience significant challenges with their hair. I know personally, I know my ponytail is significantly smaller when I'm at the gym, and I struggle to get the volume in my hair that I would have done before. So I'm delighted to welcome back the wonderful Jackie Lynch, registered nutritional therapist. It's been a while, Jackie. Welcome back.
It has. It's great to be back. Thank you for having me, Deborah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us and for telling us more about hair, because we've talked about this a lot, haven't we? And you know, what's actually going on that can affect our hair, because this is, I don't know, it's not one that you see all the time as a symptom people experience. But I know when we said we were running this session, so many people signed up for this. It was pretty much a full house. So actually, what is going on with our hair? What might cause our hair to become thinner or weaker during midlife or postmenopausal?
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because everything you said just now, I think, is true. So much of our identity is bound up with our hair. And of course, you know, as we go through perimenopause and menopause, inevitably there's going to be a hormonal connection. The reduction of estrogen actually affects the body's ability to produce keratin as effectively. And keratin is that hard protein that features in our nails and on our hair and also in our skin. So if that production goes down, then that inevitably is going to have be a bit of a player when it comes to that. But I think it's also worth remembering, because we do have a tendency at our age to blame the menopause for everything. And sometimes there's a broader picture. So it's always worth remembering that sometimes, you know, if your hair is starting to get thinner or falling out, something else might be going on. So worth exploring further. And a couple of really obvious ones would be, well, one of the classic signs of low iron, for example, iron deficiency anemia, is hair loss. And if you think of the large number of women who struggle with issues like flooding during perimenopause, not surprising if you become borderline anemic and perhaps low in iron and therefore hair thinning. And the other big one is an underactive thyroid. And this is a really interesting one, because actually some of the key symptoms of an underactive thyroid are exactly the same as the key symptoms of the menopause: fatigue, weight gain, constipation, hair loss, and what's the other big one? Dry skin. All
Right.
classic symptoms of underactive thyroid, but also classic symptoms of the menopause. And quite often, you know, women will pop into the GP and they'll say, oh, well, you know, it's your age. And actually a simple blood test could reveal underactive thyroid. And again, then you might need extra support to help with your hair. So always worth looking at the broader angle of everything.
That's really fascinating, because, you know, I was expecting you to go, well, it's due to low estrogen and and during pregnancy, when your body is awash with estrogen, that's when your hair can be full and glossy and all of those things. But you do have to say, actually, what's going on? Could it be the menopause? Could it be something else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is the skin and the hair. They're both quite barometers of what's going on inside us. So when things start to, you know, go haywire with either of them, it is worth just checking in with your doctor to make sure that it's not what you assume it is.
I'm going to have to say, though, Jackie, easier said than done sometimes, when we know that you can't always get an appointment to see your doctor about the menopause. Are there any other telltale signs of something else going on that may not be menopause?
I think those are the two big ones that I would mention, although, of course, stress is a big player. Stress affects every body cell, frankly, and the hair is no exception. So, you know, if you're stressed and fatigued and run down, then again, that's going to be something that would affect your hair. So thinking about a bit of self-care can go a long way.
Absolutely. So, this might be going on for you. It might be the menopause. It might be something else. But regardless of what it is, I mean, clearly, if you've got an underactive thyroid, you're going to need to talk to your GP. If you've got low iron, you need to be talking to your GP. But when you say about self-care, what is it that we can focus on? And we did say about the hair-friendly diet.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever going to trend from a hashtag point of view. But is it true? Right. But what how much difference can what we eat make to our hair?
Well, it can make a huge difference. I mean, obviously, I'm a nutritionist, so I would say that, wouldn't I? But the reality is there's a ton of research around the roles that what we eat and can do in terms of impacting the strength, the quality, the condition, the rapidity of growth of our hair. And I think the first thing we need to be thinking about, everybody thinks, oh, well, yes, I've heard of X, Y, or Z mineral or vitamin or some mega superfood that you can pay a fortune for because it's come from the mountains of Peru. But way before you need to think about that, you need to get the basics right. And the very first thing I always look at in my nutrition clinic when someone is worrying about their hair is how much protein they're eating. Because remember what I said a minute ago about protein? Our body uses protein to create keratin, but protein is absolutely vital. The entire human body is made of protein. And it's even our DNA is made of protein. So our body's job is to keep us alive. And if you're not eating enough protein, it is not going to care that your hair isn't looking great today and your skin's looking a bit rubbish. All it's going to think about is prioritizing your vital organs. It will send the protein to the heart, the lungs, the liver, for example, because it wants to keep you alive. So if you're not eating enough protein, and many women simply aren't, it's something I notice all the time. So you need to be having protein with every meal and every snack. So I'm thinking about foods like obviously the meat, the fish, the eggs, but also lentils, chickpeas, beans, quinoa, soya, nuts and seeds. I mean, there's something there for everyone and something there that would suit every single meal. So rather than just, finally having a bit of chicken in the evening, make sure that every meal, every snack, you're going to be having protein in there, because that's going to make an exponential difference, because whatever's spare will then go to your hair, and that's when you're going to have the sort of the stronger hair and the hair that's in better condition.
It's quite interesting because many of us don't eat enough protein, and I know some people when they go on diets and things, they worry about the calories that they're consuming in all of this, and we know that there's a role to play, or many of us talk about the fat around the middle and things like that. But so, what would be the ideal size of a portion of protein? If you sort of talk me through what my meal plan might be during the day.
Well, when you're looking at breakfast, assuming you're having some kind of cereal-based breakfast or porridge type thing, I'd be looking at a couple of tablespoons of seeds. So things like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flaxseed, chia seeds, or of course chopped nuts, also a great source of protein. That's the kind of level you'd be looking at breakfast time, or a couple of eggs if you were going for the cooked breakfast approach. When it comes to lunch and dinner, it's a fish-sized portion. So about the size of a small chicken breast, salmon steak, a couple of dollops of hummus if you're on a plant-based diet. That's the kind of thing you'd be looking for. And then if you're having snacks, you don't need handfuls of nuts, because, nuts are pretty moreish and they will, that will rack up. But I'd be thinking, maybe 7 or 8 almonds with an apple. That kind of portion is what you'd be looking at.
And it's interesting when you say, if you're vegetarian, the hummus. So, you have got those of us that do eat meat, and those that are vegetarian, and those that are pescatarian, and those that are vegan. There's options available to all.
Absolutely. Proteins there for everyone. I've mentioned the lentils, chickpeas, beans, the soya, the quinoa, all great sources of plant protein. But it's not just about protein, Deborah. It's the other macronutrients as well. Carbs get demonized. We're all thinking, oh, we've got to be on a low a low carb diet because we're carrying too much weight. But did you know that the hair follicles are the fastest reproducing cells in the body? They require large amounts of energy for that to happen. And so course, carbohydrates are our primary source of energy. And if you're following a very low carb diet, some people may even be sort of doing keto for whatever reason, then you're not feeding those hair follicles. They're not going to have the strength or the energy to reproduce. So if your hair is growing slower than it used to, or if it's thinner than it used to be, might not just be about the protein, might also be about the carbohydrate. Now, that doesn't mean, you have to be stuffing yourself with lots of sugar. It means, healthy carbohydrates, so whole grains, for example. So brown bread, brown rice, brown pasta. Doesn't need to be huge portions. Again, it's that fist-sized portion at lunch or dinner. Vegetables, of course, great source of carbohydrate, so that you're giving your body the tools to do the job, because it's easy to blame poor old estrogen, but actually, has your body got the raw materials to actually create decent hair?
Okay, and that's interesting. I didn't know that hair was the fastest growing.
It's the fastest reproducing cells in the body, the hair follicles.
Yeah, particularly around the chin, actually, would be my experience.
Oh, tell me about it. I had a special look in the mirror before this website, because I just thought, goodness me.
Yeah, so that sort of, so I get that then. So it's all about balance. It's all about making sure you get your protein, your carbohydrates. I'm thinking here of somebody that's in the situation of saying, I mean, I could say it, my hair's a bit drier than usual. Usually I can be quite greasy, and it could be one of those factors I've just been through, or I'm in a really busy time. It could be stress. I'm not looking after myself from a stress point of view. But if somebody's diet is lacking, can you catch it up? I mean, I'm not thinking of sitting there with a plate full of just chicken and hummus and everything else, but does it take a while to take effect?
Yeah, I mean, that when it comes to sort of dry hair, I think the third macronutrient, first of all, is the one to look at, the fat, because fat nourishes our hair follicles and actually sort of supports the condition. It's a little bit like moisturizing your skin, essentially, because if your skin is dry, it cracks more easily. And of course, your hair can become more brittle, more likely to split or break. So making sure you're having plenty of really good quality omega-3 fatty acids, things like flaxseed, walnuts, salmon, sardines, avocado, all great sources of omegas. But sort of when it comes to how quickly can you make a difference? Well, two things I'd say. First of all, if you start to eat a really good healthy diet, then it's going to sort of affect you relatively quickly. Within a couple of weeks, you will overall, with your body, start to feel stronger, you'll feel brighter. But of course, you've got to remember that your hair, it's new at the top, but as it grows longer, it's essentially dead. So what you've done with it before is where it will be. So I would normally be looking at committing 3 months really to seeing an overall improvement. I always think it's very like when you're trying to look at issues around reproductive issues. If you're looking to support fertility or deal with difficulties with periods, you need to go through a few cycles, and 3 cycles is the magic number I've discovered before you start to see real difference. And in terms of hair, just because of the speed of growth of hair, about 3 months is where you'd start to see a significant difference. But you would already start to see sort of a general improvement, a sort of small improvement over as the time goes on.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So, because I bought some shampoo some time ago that it said, it improves the appearance of your hair. Actually, I don't think it's really necessarily worked that much. It's probably a rescue thing that maybe I'm not looking after myself particularly well, and the shampoo and conditioner that cost a lot of money was there to replace it, but you get the basics right and you're patient and wait through. Are there supplements that can make a difference? Because I know I see adverts saying supplements for the hair.
Yeah, so when it comes to micronutrients, then obviously iron's the big one, actually, although that's rarely in a hair mineral supplement, in fairness. And the good thing is, by the way, that foods that contain protein almost invariably contain decent sources of iron as well. So that's really handy. You do the protein, you're sort of topping up with the iron, so yay for that. The big one that everyone talks about, of course, is biotin, which is a B vitamin, and it's vitamin B7, although we don't usually call it that. Now, it does play a role both in skin and hair. And the thing about biotin, though, is that it's just one of the B vitamin family. And the B vitamins actually work in synergy to support each other. And a deficiency in one can often indicate a deficiency in another. Now, biotin in food terms is found in a variety of things in small doses. It's found in egg yolk, legumes, sweet potato, what else? Mushrooms, nuts and seeds. So a lot of the things I've already mentioned are actually going to be good sources of biotin, but you don't actually need large amounts of it. It's more a bit of a combo. So what I'd tend to be looking at if you were supplementing is, rather than going for sort of one individual nutrient that can't really do much on its own, because vitamins and minerals are designed to work in synergy, looking at a kind of skin, hair, nail complex, vitamin C and vitamin E, because both vitamin C and E support the circulation, so it makes sure there's plenty of blood getting to the scalp to encourage the growth of the hair follicles. It would have biotin in for sure as well, probably zinc. Of them would have calcium, and those of you who are taking calcium might have noticed, for example, that your nails get a bit stronger because it supports what's going on with the keratin there. So they can be effective depending on if you're deficient or not. Of course, if you're not deficient, then it's not going to get you anywhere, and you might need more protein, but you'll know what you're doing with your diet. Effective, but I'd be inclined to look at something that was a combination product rather than a single nutrient product.
Yeah, I guess for me as well, I used to suffer with very serious acne, which was a menopausal symptom for me. And anything that says biotin in it, I avoid it, because I think a lot of the things I've read have said actually it can cause a flare up of acne.
Yeah, biotin's one of those ones, when you look at the research, it's really still not clear, because actually for some people, biotin and other B vitamins, in fact, can help to deal with acne. But we have to remember that we're all biochemically individual, and there are absolutely certain people who find it's a trigger. Each of you would know individually, what was going on, but it's certainly something to bear in mind if you're prone to acne. Just keep an eye on that.
Absolutely. And we're talking a lot about this dead stuff. But what about the scalp? Does the diet change the scalp? Because maybe this is dry skin, but for some people, it can actually be the scalp that gets flaky.
Yeah, so it definitely treat it as skin. So the big thing there, well, a couple of big things. First of all, if we look at the way our skin layers are created, you've got the water and you've got the oil. And it's the sebaceous glands that sort of keep the water where it should be, because oil and water doesn't mix. So you need to make sure, first of all, that you're hydrating yourself properly, because if you're not, then again, where's the water going to go? It's going to go to the places that desperately need it, which are your vital organs, not going to go to your scalp, let's face it. And also make sure, again, you're getting those omega oils in. And actually, there's something rather nice you can do with rosemary essential oil. You can put a couple of drops of rosemary essential oil in a carrier oil like jojoba. You should never put essential oil directly on the skin, because almost all of them are too powerful and could damage the skin. But if you sort of warm a little bit of jojoba oil and put a couple of drops of rosemary oil in, essential oil in there, then it will sort of blend together, and you can massage the scalp with that. And it's really great for anyone who's struggling, A, with dry scalp, and B, rosemary, does have properties that can support hair growth as well.
Well, that sounds like a really indulgent treat, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds really nice. Well, I can see there are lots of comments in chat, so I'm going to ask Sally if she'll join and tell us all about what's coming up in the chat, what people are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got lots of things coming through. Some of them you've answered as we've gone, which is great. It's just going back to the protein piece. There are a couple of things. One around suggestions of good snack proteins. So people are saying, they can see it in a meal, but what kind of things would be an easy protein snack apart from just a handful of nuts? Is there any ideas and suggestions you've got?
Sure. I mean, I often recommend seeds as well, because anyone who's working in a school won't be allowed to have a nut within, 100 miles of there. So things like pumpkin seeds can be pretty good as well, because they're quite big and so easy to snack on, and they're moreish. Hummus, of course, is the classic one, the hummus and carrot sticks. Some people like to put peanut butter or any other nut butter. Sometimes they smear it over a whole apple, or they might have a little pot of it and dip apple slices in there. Cottage cheese, of course, is always a really good one. And you can also get, you can do it yourself much cheaper, but you can pop into places like Pret and get pots of a boiled egg with some spinach leaves. That kind of thing as well can be a really good, quick and easy thing. So things that you could be keeping with you. Also, of course, you've got going for a really good quality cereal bar. Lots of them are packed with sugar, but I've got a bit of a weakness for bounce balls, which are balls rather than bars. And you can get them in places like Holland and Barrett, and they tend to be very high in protein. Naked bars are pretty good as well. I mean, they're high, they've got a lot of date in there, so they're quite sweet, but they use cashew, and that's again a good source of protein. So looking for something that's not too sugary, but that's got plenty of protein in could be a good shout. There's another brand I like actually called Pulsin. Pulsin. They do a lovely range of bars. I hate the fact that they've now started calling them keto bars, but there is one that's, for example, an orange choc chip, which is actually made with raw cacao, tons of protein and orange oil, so it's delicious.
Brilliant. Sounds very nice. Thank you. The next one then, just sticking on protein, was just around protein shakes. And if someone isn't getting enough protein from the food they're eating, is there a place for protein shakes?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think it depends on your protein shake. I mean, I really don't like some of these hideous sports products out there that are full of all kinds of nasty additives, but you can make your own protein shake. I mean, you could use ground flaxseed, or you could go and get a pure protein powder. Again, I quote Pulsin, which is one of the ones I often recommend. They have a range of pure protein powders that don't have anything in them except for the protein. So you could get a soy protein or a flaxseed protein, or if you're okay, if your tummy's okay with this, a whey protein. Lots of options, and then chuck it in a smoothie. So I think I don't see that as a problem at all. I think the main thing is just don't end up with some nasty, quite sugary product that's got a lot of additives you've never heard of, because the chances are they won't be great. Yeah,
fantastic. And someone said around they're finding brittle nails as well, with what they're experiencing, and we know hair and nails and skin, and often it's the same thing. Again, any particular top tips around if that's something that someone's experiencing? Is it similar guidance in terms of things people should be thinking about?
It's almost identical, because protein, again, the keratin, again, your body's not going to care that your nails are splitting, wants to make sure your heart's okay, so get plenty of protein in. I think calcium's a good one. I think most people notice if they take some kind of bone support supplement that's got a combo of calcium, magnesium and other bits and pieces in, their nails tend to be stronger as a result as well, which is always good. One of the things you've got to bear in mind, of course, is that you may not be absorbing your nutrients correctly. If you're struggling with issues around IBS, loose stools, diarrhea, then that can be an impact as well. So sometimes making sure that your gut's working well is just as important as what you're putting in your mouth, because ultimately, if we're not what we eat, we are what we absorb.
Yeah, and that's really good. And we can share in the recording and the article around this links to sessions we've done on gut health, because I think it's a whole other topic, but really relevant to this.
Yeah.
Also, so the next one was around a lot of people have been sharing around autoimmune issues that they have. So thyroid issues, and the fact that that's had a big impact on hair loss. And just really wondering if there are any other considerations. So someone's talked about they've got frontal fibrosing alopecia, and they've been told it's an autoimmune. So the scalp at the front's really irritated. They're taking some hydroxychloroquine, I think that's called, a protopic cream. But they just feel they're not really getting anywhere. Just anything in particular from a food point of view that might really help support if someone is struggling with an autoimmune condition.
Yeah, I mean, once you start to get into sort of autoimmune territory, it is tricky. One thing I have observed in my clinic, and there is a degree of research around this, is that autoimmune conditions don't respond terribly well to gluten. So it may well be worth trying a gluten-free diet for a period of time to see if that makes a difference to you. Not suggesting you're gluten intolerant, that's an entirely different thing. But autoimmune conditions I often find they don't work terribly well with gluten. It can be a little bit of a trigger. So I would certainly look at that. I'd absolutely be looking hard at the omega-3 fatty acids, because that's going to sort of help what's going on with the at a cellular level with the hair follicles, and I think that would be very, very important. Protein, definitely, but you might also want to be looking at some sort of collagen approach. So, for example, bone broth is something I'd often recommend with autoimmune conditions, even autoimmune conditions that involve the gut. So things like ulcerative colitis, for example, or Crohn's disease, because it can heal cells, and the same would of course be true of the hair. So you can actually buy bone broth these days. You don't have to make your own, although if you have a quick Google, you can see some very simple instructions as to how to make it. It couldn't be easier, and having that every day could be something that could be helpful on top of all the things I've said, which would still hold true for you for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. Can I just zoom in with that one, Sally? Because you said the word collagen just after it came up in the chat, and people are saying, you know, what about collagen supplements?
Yeah, you need to be slightly careful with collagen supplements, because a lot of them are not in a form that's easily recognized by the body. We need collagen for lots of things. We need it, of course, for our skin and our hair and to our nails, but we also need it for our bones, because we need calcium to keep them strong, but we need collagen to keep them flexible. So if we fall over, we bounce and we don't break. That's very important. Now, the body uses vitamin C to make collagen. So my first piece of advice for anyone who's looking to boost their collagen is to really mainline your vitamin C. Lots and lots of vegetables, which by and large contain way more vitamin C than fruits. Really be thinking about that, or perhaps even vitamin C supplements. Be careful of collagen supplements, simply because it's a little bit like eating the house rather than eating the bricks to let your body make the house, because it knows what to do with the vitamin C. It doesn't always know what to do with the collagen. So just be slightly careful about that. Some people can find that they are effective, but if you find that they're not really making much of a difference to you, I'd go back a step and look at vitamin C as a potentially a more helpful approach for you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the questions we had around somebody who's found that they've lost hair as they've gone through quite a significant weight loss. And it's how do they support particular tips or why that might be happening?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if it's been significant rapid weight loss, then that's a bit of a shock to the body. The body doesn't really know what to do, and it will sort of, it'll slow everything down, including your metabolism, because it just isn't quite sure, and it just wants to protect you. So, oh, sorry, something flashed on my screen, then I got a slight shock. So I think what you need to be really thinking about is making sure that you, even with the weight loss, that you're eating a balanced diet, that you're having the combination of the proteins, the fats, and the carbohydrates to get those basics right that I've talked about. And, you know, just go steady. It will come back, as long as, you know, you're eating a sensible diet, but it's just going to be a bit of a waiting game.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just got one final question. Just a final summary of how much protein should we be consuming each day?
Okay, that's going to depend on each individual, so I'm not going to start giving you grams. In my book, actually, I've got a whole chapter on exactly what you should be doing in terms of the approaches to protein and the portions. What I tend to say is stick with what I've very simply described, which is those fist-sized portions, because everybody's slightly different. When your fist will give you a good idea, so use your fist and not your partner's fist if they happen to be a great big bodybuilder, because that'll be too much protein for you. So that's what I'd be looking at. Just simply think about, you know, a portion of protein with every meal and snack. Then you're not worrying about weighing things or making calculations, and it's all there for you.
Fantastic, thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone for all of your comments in the chat as well. I was just making a little list myself of the shampoos that can be really nice. Some of them that contain rosemary. So I think there's Elvive in there, Nature, and Peter Kingsley, is it? Was one of the other ones. So but that actually made me feel a bit like, do you know what, you can go and treat yourself to some really nice shampoo and enjoy the experience as very much part of self-care too. So thank you very much, Sally Leach, as always, manning in the questions in the background. And thank you very much again, Jackie, for joining.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. A quick, sneaky show of my book there for everyone. Can I just say one last thing? I did see that somebody popped a question in about whether or not it was okay to take supplements with a kidney condition. Chronic kidney disease is something that's very complex and interacts with a lot of supplements. So I would check with your doctor before you do anything else. That's really important. Sorry, I just thought I better get that in there. But thanks so much for having me, Deborah.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. All the best. Bye.